Well, it's 8 o'clock Friday night, and just like always, it means it's West Virginia night here on Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. Um, Mark's going to be just a few minutes late coming in, so he asked me to start the show off tonight. We have Golden Voodoo with us. Golden Voodoo, what's going on tonight, man?
Not much, man. Just another Friday night, getting another week and another weekend coming up behind us to get to the college football season. That's all I'm worried about in the off season, man. Just getting those weeks behind us, man.
Yeah, I tell you, there's been a lot of rumors this week. A lot of things coming out about the Pac-12 and Big
Yeah.
12 and Arizona State and Arizona and everything. Me and you, we've talked to Tony about it quite a bit, and Tony's adamant that nobody's coming to the Big 12, but everything's settled there, and they're going to get their TV contract in the Pac-12. But every time you turn around, it seems like Pac-12 gets some news
Yep.
that may not be the worst news, but still it's kind of be kind of concerning in a way. Although the Big Ten went
Yeah.
through the same thing with people backing out, so
Yeah, I mean, me and you both, we've talked to Tony Altimore and Jeff Grimm for that matter, and they're sticking to their guns as far as they're saying the Pac-12 has a TV deal, nobody's leaving, but I'm like, well, what is the deal? Do you like? There's nothing that shows me anything good for the Pac-12, and yet day after day after day after day, I'm seeing something added to the pile as far as pointing towards the Pac-12 being done and teams leaving. Some for the Big 12, some maybe for the Big 10. I don't know, man. I just go by what I see, and what I see, the evidence shows that, or is pointing to that, the Pac-12 is not in a good position right now.
yeah, I know it seems that way. But like I say, it talks to anybody. He's determined that we're fine, and we'll see. I mean, he's gonna stick up the Pac-12. It's a USC guys. He's got to do that until they get to the Big Ten. So, shout out to the chat. Appreciate everybody being here. If you would recommend this video to somebody, let them know we're live. Let everybody know on Facebook we're live. Let everybody know in your friendship group. Just bring some people in here with us. And if you haven't, hit that subscribe button down there on the West Virginia channel, because we need to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. I did a big push last week because we were at 761, I believe it was, and I did a big push and we made it to 840. So we
Nice.
gained about 80 this week. We can do it. We can do it. So let's
Yeah. That
let's
is
keep it up.
only
Hit that like button
160
too.
away, guys. Come on. Come on. Every
You were
subscribe
telling me,
counts right now. And whenever you hit that 1,000,
so
that's
you
when
were telling
YouTube
me
starts
before we
taking it
came
more
on.
seriously, and it starts suggesting it. And so you're actually able to build faster. And that's what we're wanting. Mark has a whole network of different channels, and we want West Virginia to have a strong presence on Mark's networks of channels. But we can't do that unless you hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, I mean, like the other night, I went into the Miami show, and here it is, off season. The Miami show had 200 people in there,
Yep.
and stuff. So, we can do it on West Virginia too. We just gotta let everybody know where to find us. So
Hey,
if you've
me and
got a
Joey
friend
are the
that's
ones
West
that talked
Virginia
Mark
Mountaineer,
into starting the West Virginia channel because we told him, hey,
yeah,
the fan base will support it, but we need y'all to back us up on that one.
yeah, because we started just before the season started, and we haven't made it to 1,000 yet, and we need to get to 1,000. So you
Yeah.
were telling me
Well,
before
having a
we
bad
started this
season
show
didn't
that
help.
you were hearing some rumors tonight in some groups, some people talking and stuff. Well, tell us what you're talking about there.
Yeah, so if people aren't aware, like I'm a member of a ton of West Virginia message boards and Facebook groups and Instagram. I mean, all over the place. Too many to count. Probably over 1,000 at least. And I'm seeing a common story being passed around, rumor, whatever you want to call it, and that's West Virginia actually already knows who their starting quarterback is going to be versus Penn State because, and I'm using quotations because that's what they did, promises were made. So I don't know how true that is, but it's something that's being talked about a lot right now. And if that is true, then I would lean towards, they've promised Nico that he would get the start for the Penn State game because if you think about it, Garrett Green, if he was going to transfer, he's had opportunity after opportunity. He's been through the worst times at West Virginia. So I don't think that they're scared of Garrett Green leaving. So if this is true, I don't even know if it's true, guys. Okay, I'm just saying this is what I'm hearing. If it's true, I would say that they're trying to prep Nico to be our starter against Penn State that first game.
Yeah, that might be, but they didn't say who they said the promise was made
No,
to. So
they didn't say
it
the
could have
name.
been Garrett Green, and I would think they would go with Garrett Green just because he's got the experience. He led us out last year, and
Well,
took
yeah, I
over.
would agree. They should go to Garrett Green. I'm just saying, like the storyline of that, like based on
Right.
promises were made. That tells me not based on how they played, which how they played would be Garrett Green. If it's based on how they played, then Garrett Green should be the
Right.
starter, and spring practice and all that stuff. But if it's based on promises were made, then that tells me it's based on the person who they have higher expectations for and was more highly recruited and scared that he might leave. Maybe an NIL situation. I don't know.
Everybody talks about Nico kind of loves it in Morgantown though. That and and every time I see him
Yeah.
tweet, boy, he is excited about being there. So I don't know if he would leave or not. I
Well,
just
if he
think that
doesn't get
Garrett
playing
Green
time,
ought
he
to get.
probably would. Not gonna lie.
That's true. I mean, he's a 4-star recruit, and a lot of people wanted him, so he could go a lot of
Yeah.
places and start. But Garrett Green's a pretty good quarterback, so I think
Yeah.
if it is quarterback battle, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. As long as we run the spread offense, I think both quarterbacks are capable of running that spread offense. I like that they promoted the running backs coach to the offensive coordinator, as long as he does have somewhat of a mind of his own and just doesn't, turn into a yes man for Neil Brown. We run the spread option, and these quarterbacks take advantage of the defense with their legs. Run first. If the pass is open, then you pass it. I think that's West Virginia's bread and butter. If you look at West Virginia's success, every time we've had any type of success, whether it was under Don Nealon, whether it was Rich Rod, even Dana Holgerson, it was always the spread offense that those seasons we were the most successful.
Yeah, I agree there. Um, I was looking today at the recruiting and stuff. And actually, what made me do it was Yvette was asking me. She said, "So, what do you think about Neil Brown next year? Is Neil Brown going to be fired?" And I said, "I think that he will if he doesn't start off really well. If we start off 0-3, he's definitely going to be fired. Or 1-4, he's gone. But if
Yeah.
we can start out, a little bit
You're
better than
breaking
that,
up
but
a
we might
smidge, Joey.
might
You're
do a
breaking
lot
up a
better."
smidge, buddy.
Let me turn my camera. I'll turn my
There you
camera
go.
off, and that sometimes helps.
Yeah.
How my camera does. But
I
yeah,
got you.
I was telling her. I said I think Neil Brown could be fired, and she said, "But isn't he a great recruiter?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we were in the top 30 for a while, but then everybody kind of dropped out. We get some recruits, and then we lost a lot of people and things. So, I mean, what do you think about the class and stuff that's coming in?"
I mean, I think West Virginia has a strong class, but it's got to translate onto the field. We can't keep Neil Brown with the fear of if we fire Neil Brown, then our recruiting will go down. Well, if it's not translating onto the field, then that doesn't matter anyways. The sooner we can start over and start from scratch and get grounded with the new head coach, then the better. We have to do that. I think the fear of Neil Brown being a great recruiter, don't want to lose all these recruits. I understand that fear. I do, but at the same time, if we're not seeing the product on the field, if we're not seeing wins, then how is that helping us anyways?
Mark finally made it in. Hey, Mark.
Joey, GBD, how you guys doing?
Doing pretty good this week.
Okay,
Oh,
so
right.
the first thing I'm going to say is I apologize for being late, but you
No
guys,
need.
both being YouTube people, understand the
Yes.
issues of technical issues. So I've been wrestling with the company. I'll withhold the name for now. Maybe I'll be producing a viral video at one of these points, going on like a 10-minute rant about how much their customer service sucks and
You
their
should.
customer support and how they screw things up. And so anyway, so that's what I've been dealing with for like the last 2 hours, is one of those kind of deals that you guys are well familiar with. So I'm going to go on another rant. Then I'm going to give my one comment about Neil Brown. Then I'll turn it over to you guys.
Okay.
GBD shows up here every Friday night. Sure, he misses sometimes, just like I miss sometimes. Obviously, we've got our own personal lives. He's got his own business, his own channel. He shows up here every Friday night and delivers, helps us out here at the Voice of College Football. We're doing our best to build a West Virginia channel that Joey is working his ass off to get excellent guests, contributors, all of that, to the point where he got us Ren Baker, West Virginia athletic director, a few weeks ago. He's got another tremendous guest that he's working on right now. And so from a content standpoint, between GBD and myself, we hope to deliver this awesome West Virginia channel. We need you guys to get us to 1,000 subs is what we need you guys to do. So even if you hate West Virginia, where is Talk is Pitt? Is he on here? Connor Johnson. Even if you hate or could care less about West Virginia, and Connor, we appreciate you being here on a West Virginia show. And I know you check in on my shows all the time, GBD shows all the time. Thank you for that. Please subscribe to the West Virginia channel. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. We just need to get to 1,000 subs. If you know anything about YouTube, you just know that that's a key metric, because that shows, okay, you're serious. You've been working on it, get to a certain point, and now YouTube's going to help you push videos out into traffic, and you can get some traction and really make something of it. But Joey's been working tirelessly on this. GBD's here. It doesn't help him out that much every Friday night for him to devote an hour plus to West Virginia football talk here. But we're trying to make something special here for West Virginia. Joey came to me, when was it, Joey? A year ago, more than a year ago, and was like, I want a really strong West Virginia channel. We want to do something here where we really are going to build the best West Virginia channel, and GBD is tearing it up, and he's got his thing going, but, he's focusing on all of college football. We're going to make this just West Virginia, nothing but West Virginia. Will you do it? And I was like reluctant, like, man, I got a zillion things going. I would love to have a West Virginia channel, but GBD's on board. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. We'll do it. So we need your help. We need your support. And we know West Virginia had a lousy season, or we'd probably be at 1,000 right now.
Yeah.
But help us through the rough times and get us to 1,000 subs. And again, I know the channel may be difficult to find, so I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And my one take on Neil Brown is recruiting might be one of his strengths, but can't a good in-game coach, game preparation coach, deliver just as good a recruiting ranking as whatever they had this year, 35, 38?
Yeah. I mean, that's good for West Virginia. It is, but it's just, I think one of his biggest problems is trusting his assistants. I don't think that Neil Brown ever trusts his assistants 100%. We saw it last year whenever we brought in Graham Harrell. First game, he showed, not 100% trust, because Graham Harrell had a play ready for that 4th and inches, and Neil Brown overrode him, decided to play analytics, punted the ball, and of course the rest is history. Pitt won the game. Even in the post-game conference, Neil Brown said, if I had 1,000 times to do it, I would have done the same thing 1,000 times. Then I'm like, you have learned absolutely nothing.
I tell you, one thing I like that Neil Brown done this year, though, is he promoted Chad Scott's offensive coordinator. Now, we don't know how good Chad Scott's going to be as an offensive coordinator, but I can tell you right now, the players like him. And there's a video of Chad Scott mic'd up at West Virginia's practice one day. That man's a good coach. I'm going to tell you right now, that guy's a heck of a coach. And I was looking at some of our recruits, and some of our big recruits this year, a couple of our 4-star recruits, Chad, I think Chad Scott will do a good job. Now, will Neil Brown let him go? Will Neil Brown turn him loose, let him call the offense? That's the thing. Because, we might have had a pretty good offensive coordinator there last year, and that did not work out very well with Graham Harrell. So,
well, that's what I'm saying, Joey. Like, how many times are we going to have this off-season talk to where, no, we didn't do what we thought we were going to do last year, but the players really like the coach. Looks like they're making good decisions in the off-season. We got some good players. How long are we going to have to play this wait and see game?
Yep, I agree. I agree.
I mean, it's been if this was year 2, even year 3, this is year 5. This will be year 5. Last year we went 5-7, which was the same exact record as year 1. And our schedule wasn't that difficult. I mean, it was tough, don't get me wrong, but there were some winnable games on there that we lost. And it was because the defense took a massive step backwards. It was not the offense's fault last year. It wasn't. So even with Chad Scott being promoted to the offense and the offense being better, what about the defense? Is the defense going to be halfway decent? I'm not even asking for good because that would take a miracle. Are they going to be halfway decent to where we can get at least 1 3-and-out per game? One. That's all I'm asking for. Just one. And turn into a bend but don't break defense. Last year, and we're used to West Virginia being a bend but don't break, but last year it was break, and it was terrible.
I know that I seen an article yesterday. I did not read it. That came out that said West Virginia is looking to make defensive adjustments in the scheme and in personnel. And I didn't read it. It's on a paid site. It's on one of the paid sites, so I didn't read it. But I would be interested to see what kind of adjustments they're going to make on defense, especially in personnel. That's going to be interesting. So, but I agree with you that we've got to make some changes along both lines. Our offensive line last year seemed to be pretty good.
Our offense.
If they could stand strong this year, So I love that we got C.J. Donaldson back. I like that. I like the fact that he's going to be one of the best running backs in the nation. If our offensive line can give him just a crease, is all that man needs. He can get through there pretty quick. So I'm really excited to see him again this year. See the improvement. And now that Chad Scott, right, and Chad Scott was his coach, and so now that Chad Scott's the offensive coordinator, he knows what these running backs can do. He knows their strengths because, that's where he was. He was coaching them. So hopefully we have a very strong running game this year.
Oh, we absolutely will. It'll be one of our best phases as far as anything on defense or offense. I think we'll have the running game will carry this team, and the passing game will be okay. It's just can the defense come up to at least a C- level? Last year I gave him an F. We had an F defense. If we can bring that up to a C- level, then we'll get to a bowl and we could have a chance to go 8-4 or something like that.
Yeah, I agree on the defense. We did not have a good defense last year at all. And, can they turn it around this year? In 2020, mind you, it was a short year. We had one of the top defenses. In 2019, it wasn't so bad. 2021, it started dropping off just a little, but didn't fall off the cliff by any means, we were, I think, 45th. Yeah. But then this past year, we kind of fell off the cliff. So can Jordan Leslie, get that defense back? Or is that going to be a personnel change? I don't know.
He's not the guy for the job. I wish Tony Gibson would have been promoted the way he should have been promoted. And look what he's doing over there at NC State. I think if West Virginia gave him an opportunity back, I think he would take it. I really do.
Well, one thing, and that's something that Mark asked Ren Baker when he was on about the discrepancy in the amount of pay for our assistant coaches. Only giving Neil Brown $3.5 million to hire all of his assistant coaches, when Virginia Tech's given $5 million, Pitt's given $5-6 million. Everybody around us is $5 or $6 million, and we're giving $3.5 million to our assistant coaches. How can we expect Neil Brown to go out and get the top or one of the best defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators in the nation with numbers like that? It's not going to happen.
And that's why West Virginia fans are not happy with Gordon Gee, because that falls on his shoulders.
Kind of goes back, I guess, to all the way back to Shane Lyons too, and some of the way he distributed the money.
But he was just doing what Gordon Gee told him to do.
Yeah,
I think that's where everything is sourced from, to be honest with you. But I think the offense is going to be fine. If you look at the schedule, yes, it's one of the years where we have 6 true road games. But 2 of the road games in conference are against Cincinnati and UCF. Both of those can be winnable games. and we drew all 4 of the new teams coming in. We don't have to go on the road to BYU. This is a schedule to where if West Virginia doesn't get to a bowl, something is very, very wrong. And if somehow we don't get to a bowl with this schedule and Neil Brown is still the head coach after this year, you're going to see a golden blue that you've never seen before. And you've seen, the Clowntaineer, a.k.a. the Mountaineer clown and all that stuff. You've seen me throw things. You've seen me get mad. But that would just be the next step, because it'll basically turn into a feeling of hopelessness, because that's what it will be.
I think everybody in the country doesn't expect us to win game 1, against Penn State, at Penn State. They're in Happy Valley. That's probably not a game we're going to win. Let's face it, But coming back to Morgantown then to take on Pitt, that should be a winnable game. It was a winnable game last year on the road, so I'm sure we can take care of business this year. And then going into our Big 12 play, I'm like you. When you're drawing all 4 of the newcomers, they're all coming from Group of 5. That should be 4 wins. That it really should. It should be 4 wins. So,
excuse me, Joe. I meant our 2 road games, as far as those 4 new teams, is actually at Houston and at UCF. So that makes it actually even easier. Yeah. We get Cincinnati and BYU at home.
Yeah. So at Houston, and that was a. If you ask me, that's a screw up by the Big 12, because that game would have drawn so many more viewers and had so many more eyes on it. Had they played that in Morgantown, that would have been a big game. And that would have been a primetime game. If you ask me, they would have put that game on primetime had it been in Morgantown. Then it's in Houston, it's going to barely be a noon kickoff, and, no glamour about it whatsoever right now.
Well, if we're talking about the SEC, they don't have to worry about setting up matchups like that. Like they have great matchups all over the place. With the Big 12, especially with Oklahoma and Texas leaving in 2024, they have to take advantage of storylines and opportunities. You don't get another opportunity for a first time a head coach is going back and playing his old team. Yes, we can do it again in 2024, but they've already played by then. This was a golden opportunity, and it was completely wasted. I don't understand. I really don't.
So I'm going to do something here real quick, and I want y'all to give me your opinion on this as well, and the chat too. So Brent Yormark, right, coming in as Big 12 commissioner, he's missed a few marks here. So number one, he signed the contract that was lower than the ACC. So we're making less than the ACC, and we all make fun of the ACC for the money and the contract they signed. We just did the same thing in the Big 12. Also, we gave up $180 million to OU and Texas by letting them out and not charging them a $100 million exit fee, and that guaranteed $80 million grant of rights. We lost all that. So that there's strike 2 on him. He promised that he's going to go west to Pac-12 schools, and that's looking like it's probably a no-go, most likely a no-go. That brings in 4 new teams in year 1, and the money that OU and Texas had to pay could have went to the remaining 8 teams. Now it's got to go to those 4 teams, bringing them in early. I don't know. And then you talk about like the matchup missing some marks on some key matchups in some games, like the West Virginia Houston game should have been played in Morgantown. That's about 5 strikes on him right now. I'm giving him an F so far myself.
Completely disagree with you, Joe. I love you. We think alike sometimes, but man, I think you're way off on this. I don't like the fact that he waived the exit fees for Texas and Oklahoma. I do agree with you on that. We talked about the missed opportunity with West Virginia's schedule, but if you look at the overall Big 12, West Virginia, you can tell West Virginia wasn't the focus. So as a West Virginia fan, we can focus on it. But for other matchups, he made sure to try to maximize the situation. But yeah, I'm not happy that he's not having Houston play West Virginia at Morgantown. Like, to me, that was an absolute no-brainer. As far as going west, it actually looks like he's trying to make moves to get those teams. In fact, we're here today, even if it's a bluff and it's not going to happen, we've heard that he's in talks with Fresno State. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to cut off the Pac-12 and he's trying to influence those four corner teams to come to the Pac-12. Now, ultimately, it's up to them. You can't force somebody to make a decision. It will be up to them. But he's trying to make every move possible to nudge them in the direction of the Big 12. Now, will they actually do it? I don't know. But Brett Yormark, he's trying to go get Gonzaga. I've heard that he's interested in UConn. I don't know if there's actual talks in that, but I've heard he's interested in UConn. That would be a great balance, because for West Virginia, even if it's every other year, a road trip to Spokane, Washington, that's a nightmare road trip. So, at least try to balance it out on the east side. For how long he's been in office, like what, couple months? Not that long. Not a couple months, but several months. We're going on months. You can't measure it by years yet. For the amount of time that he's been in office, I actually think he's done a really good job. In fact, the TV deal that you just criticized, I actually think it was a genius move, because there was only one decent TV deal left on the table as far as Fox is concerned, and it was going to come down to the Pac-12 or the Big 12. Brett Yormark, the Big 12's TV deal doesn't expire until a year after the Pac-12's. He jumped line and made sure to lock down that TV deal, and now the Pac-12's, they're out there panicking because there's not a lot of money that can be spent on them. And, I'm hearing rumors anywhere between 20, 25 million per team per year between ESPN and Amazon. I think he outsmarted the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 is in total panic mode. Even if they do stay together, I don't think it's going to be for much longer.
So I've got a question on the TV deal. When does the TV deal, the new one, start? Do we know?
For the Big 12?
For the Big 12.
I think it's 2024. Or no, is it?
I think it was supposed to be 2025, but since OU and Texas are gone, they may be starting in 2024.
2024. Yeah.
Okay, so it does not include Oklahoma and Texas. So my next thought is, to Joey's point, I thought that the exit fee was only going to be renegotiated or canceled if the Big 12 was going to get games back from Oklahoma and from Texas in non-conference play to give the Big 12 some attractive matchups, i.e. Bedlam first and foremost for Oklahoma State to get some games back from Oklahoma, and maybe Texas to play, TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech. But I thought that's one of the hangups, was that the Big 12 wanted big non-conference games from Texas and Oklahoma in exchange for letting them out of that exit fee. And I don't know that they got them.
I don't think they did.
It doesn't seem like it, or we would know about it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think he was in too much of a rush to get them out, because from what it looks like, his thinking is he's looking at the future of the Big 12, and he officially considers Oklahoma and Texas the past because they're leaving. So I do think he rushed that a little bit, left a lot of money on the table, still didn't get the deal of, the big out-of-conference on Big 12 campuses once they did leave. So to me, that tells me he was a little bit too much in a hurry to get them, out of the Big 12.
You know what the Big Ten did, obviously, with their deal, and they've got a lot more weight, but, they built this multi-layer, like NFL kind of deal on a Saturday where it almost looks like an NFL schedule on a Sunday with CBS, with Fox, with NBC, if you're an NFL fan, where you're going to NFL fans are used to, they know exactly kind of the sequence of how that works, that you got your Sunday night game on NBC. You've got, it was always for years and years, the AFC games on CBS and the NFC games on Fox, and the 1:00 games, the 4:00 games, then boom, then we're into prime time, and it's always going to be on NBC, and then the Sunday night or the Monday night game, and exactly where that's going to be. And the Big Ten built this schedule and this format with NBC, Fox, and CBS to where they're covering the entire day, and they're gonna drive it in people's minds that, okay, CBS 3:30, it's always a Big Ten game, NBC, and I would like to know if, and that's one of the big things that it's about branding. It's about getting in people's heads and establishing your place in the market. And there's a lot to compete it against with the SEC and the Big Ten in particular, but also the ACC and the Pac-12. It's almost like when Fox decided, okay, ESPN and ABC have owned the primetime window forever, and they always throw out, an SEC or Big Ten game or a really good Big 12 game. Oklahoma, West Virginia played on Saturday night games on ABC. So whatever the best game that they could get a hold of. And Fox just determined, okay, we're going to counter program. We're going to put our best game at noon. And that's going to be a lot of Ohio State, Penn State, pick your game, or a Big 12 game that happens to be the best game that they've got a property for. And now it's stuck in college football. It's taken a few years, but it's stuck in college football minds. Fox has the best game at noon. And
Big
I just
noon
think
kickoff.
What's that?
And they branded it Big Noon Kickoff.
Yeah. And I think the Big 12 needs to do something like that, where people aren't just kind of like searching, like, we know what the Big 10's doing. We know where the SEC is going to be. The Big 12, I guess they just kind of like, it's who knows where they're throwing their games all over the place. No, the best game in the Big 12 is always going to be wherever it's going to be. 3:30 Fox.
I agree.
Yeah, and the problem is where's that game coming from in the Big 12? It's there's just not any. Like Kansas and Kansas State. Well, that's not a rivalry anymore. It seems like lately, not for the last 12 years. Kansas State dominates Kansas. So I mean, it's just where's those rivalries come from? There's just not any in the Big 12 right now.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily rivalries. I think they just have to look at the matchups and see, okay, what's going to be a good matchup? Like, what's going to equal a good game? And then figure out pick a time slot, noon, 3:30, 7:30, whatever, stick to it. Our best game is going in this time slot. That way, when somebody thinks good Big 12 game, it's going to be at this time.
Yeah. So what do you look at if you say, okay, TCU made the playoffs last year? TCU is going to be a team that people are going to keep an eye on this year, obviously, because of that. So let's say TCU playing Texas Tech might be a big game that they'll look at. But if you look at other teams in the Big 12 right now, West Virginia's down, Oklahoma State's down, Kansas is coming back. They're starting to be watched a little bit more. Kansas State won the Big 12 last year, so they're going to be pretty good again this year. But Texas and Oklahoma gone now. That's a big thing, and everybody playing those two schools was always a big game. Now there's just not any of those big games left. So, is West Virginia Houston going to be a big game? Sure, it's going to be a big game, but it's not going to be. It's not going to beat out. It's not going to beat out, say, Georgia and Tennessee playing over on another network. That's just not going to happen. So that's what I mean. Is like where before West Virginia playing Texas, that got a lot of viewers. West Virginia playing Oklahoma got a lot of viewers. West Virginia playing one of these other Big 12 teams just doesn't draw a lot of viewers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a problem from a marketing standpoint. I think it's a good thing from a football standpoint. So for football nerds like us, I think the new Big 12 is phenomenal, because I don't know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. If you could tell me any team in the Big 12 and you could say, are they going to win a Big 12 championship in the next 5 to 8 years? And I'd say, sure, they all could.
You couldn't
now,
even
obviously,
say no to Kansas now.
What's that?
You couldn't even say no to Kansas now.
Even Kansas, we'll throw Kansas in there. But it's like most college football fans, unless you're just a complete junkie, they kind of know the go-to teams in each conference. Okay, who's Ohio State and Michigan? Who are they playing this week? Maybe Penn State, throw them in the SEC, Georgia. Who are they playing? And there's these games that kind of mark in these teams that hold up the conference. In the Big 12, it's going to be fun, but they're going to have to hope that somebody emerges, a collection of teams.
Well, Mark, there's an answer to that. And it actually falls on the shoulders of West Virginia, because right now, West Virginia is behind Oklahoma and Texas. I would say West Virginia is one of the most talked about schools in the Big 12 right now for the wrong reason. Whenever Dana Holgerson was there, it was because air raid, no defense. But West Virginia got a lot of talk. Now it's, West Virginia doesn't fit in the Big 12. Neil Brown needs to be fired. So West Virginia is still getting a lot of talk just for the wrong reason. If West Virginia can get out of this rut and start producing, I'm telling you, when West Virginia is good, people know it. As a fan, not living in the state of West Virginia pretty much most of my life, the majority of my life I've lived in South Carolina. When West Virginia is good, people all over the place talk about it, not just in the state of West Virginia. So that's a burden that kind of falls on West Virginia, that if we don't get out of this, then it actually hurts the Big 12. West Virginia being good would be good for the Big 12.
I agree with that 100% because you're exactly right. When West Virginia is good, they get views from all over the country, and everybody talks about them. As far west as you can go, or as far south as you can go. I know I've been vacationing in other states, and West Virginia's had good teams, and I'll wear a West Virginia jersey, and people stop me on the street to talk about how good West Virginia is, and things. So I know they're watched. Right now, being down. West Virginia is the largest fan base in the Big 12, and these losses are hurting. We have to get back to some very good wins, some big time wins. And what could kick that off would be a big win over Penn State game 1 this year. that could kick it off.
That would be uplifting for the Big 12. That would be massive.
It would be.
It would be.
West Virginia upsets Penn State. That would be the start of something special, in my opinion.
And for as good as Penn State is, and for as down as West Virginia was last year, that's not an impossible ask. It can be done.
It's not. It's not, because you got to remember, West Virginia was in every game. They've been in every game the last 2 years, except for maybe 2.
Texas. We got blown out by Texas.
Blown out by Texas. We were in the TCU game all the way to the end last year,
Yep.
So is it impossible for us to go and beat Penn State? No, because, it's very well possible. Now, is it likely? No, but still possible. So,
but I agree. That wouldn't just, hold on. I thought I shut all them slob.
Oh, here we go.
Those slob trophy guys out, but this thing has actually been engraved for a while. But I loved seeing everybody getting obsessed with it. It became a storyline. But there you go. There's your proof.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. I think West Virginia beating Penn State doesn't just help West Virginia. I think it would help the Big 12 tremendously.
Oh.
That would be a big win, and it would get people talking, and it would get. West Virginia looks good now. Could West Virginia win? People would start talking about West Virginia again. We need that. We need that a lot. I think it would help with recruiting too.
Yep, it would. I think I think it would help with the transfer portal a whole lot. We're losing players to transfer portal in droves every year, and it's always coming off of these mediocre to bad years. So we lose 19 this year. Was it 19 we lost? Yeah. So, and we didn't pick up a lot out of the transfer portal either. So I don't know where the replacements are coming from. But we do have a good class. We have a decent class. We have a great class. We got a decent class coming in. We have some really good talent there already. And for the most part, our talent stayed. They didn't leave. We lost a couple of really good players, but for the most part, our talent stayed intact after last year. So, can we add to that talent with some more talent and put a team out there that can go 8-4, maybe 7-5, most likely? That's what I'm looking at. So, yeah, I'd love to see us. But my gosh, if we can go in and Happy Valley and get a win game 1. There's no doubt about it. This team could make some noise in the Big 12. That's for sure.
Definitely, the Big 12 is winnable. In fact, we don't play, in my opinion, who the best team is going to be, and that's Texas. and we get the second best team at home in Texas Tech. So I think the schedule is extremely manageable. We pulled all 4 of the new teams. Yes, we do have to go on the road and play Oklahoma, but Oklahoma, we beat them for the first time ever since joining the Big 12, and we weren't a good team last year. So I don't expect them to be that much better. They will be better, and it will be in Norman. But if we can take a significant step forward, even that's a winnable game. So it's that first game that worries everybody as far as, man, if we pull a dud, then that could set us off into a tailspin. We lose that game and then trip up and lose against Penn State, the season's over. That's how important both of those games are. Those 2 games will determine our season.
Yeah, you slip up and lose against Pitt. You meant
What
in
I
game
say?
2. You said game 2 lose against Penn State.
No, I meant Pitt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Penn State's not important as far as us getting to a bowl because we're expecting to lose, but it's still important because if we were to win that game, then we could see a season that we didn't know was going to happen.
Well, not only that, I think the entirety of the Big 12 will be watching that game to see how the Big 12 can stack up against a Big 10 team. Not just a Big 10 team, but Big 10 powerhouse. So
people are expecting Penn State to compete for the Big 10 championship.
Right. So that's going to be there's going to be a lot of eyes on that game. That I guess it'll probably be one of the Chick-fil-A kickoff classics would be my guess.
I don't know if they would do that for us because it's not a neutral game. They usually do the Chick-fil-A kickoffs for neutral.
Yeah.
Like last year was Georgia, Oregon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, I honestly don't want it to be a primetime game because that would make that game even worse. Nighttime game in Happy Valley, no, thank you. Especially starting off, give it to us noon. I think it'll be much more manageable if we play at noon.
I tell you now, Chris probably remembers a few games against Penn State, but for the most part, Chris wasn't born yet when we were playing Penn State big time, and that was a pretty heated rivalry. I mean, I know we think of Pitt as a pretty heated rivalry too. Penn State was a pretty big rivalry in itself. So this is going to be the rekindling that. So a lot of the older folks like myself remember that, and that's going to be pretty awesome game. Mark, I'm sure you remember
those
some
games
classics too.
And that's why West Virginia playing Oklahoma in the Big 12 was such a big draw for West Virginia fans because we remember the rivalry we had with Oklahoma in the 80s.
Yeah, it's funny because Oklahoma seldom beat us until we joined the Big 12, and then we couldn't beat them.
They beat us all the time. But we did get a win. We can say we beat them before they leave. I wish we could get that tiebreaker game against Texas, though. I was not happy that they took the home game against Texas off. But they are supposed to be really good, so maybe they did us a favor. I don't know.
We got a few more people in here now. Maybe Mark ought to go on his rant again about the channel.
Rant number 2.
Here we go. Joey is busting his tail, busting his ass to get things done on this West Virginia channel. I'm telling you, he is working behind the scenes all the time, doing a great job for me, doing a great job for GBD, but specifically for this West Virginia channel, he got us an interview. It took him a lot of work to get us an interview with WVU Athletic Director Ren Baker. GBD and myself interviewed Ren Baker. We've got another big interview that Joey's working on coming up here soon. He's doing a lot more beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people wanted a strong West Virginia channel, and Joey approached me a little over a year ago, and we decided to make this happen. And one of the big reasons why is because we had GBD on board as well. He comes here every Friday night, donates his time. He could be off creating more content for his channel, doing a different live stream, but he's here for nothing but love of West Virginia football, and so that we can build something here at the Voice of College Football over on the West Virginia channel. And we need to get to 1,000 subs. So everybody, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Gonna drop it again for a third time. Please subscribe to the West Virginia channel. Get us to 1,000 subs so YouTube takes us seriously, starts promoting the videos. And once we get to 1,000 subs, we'll really crank out the content even more. So please do that for us. And even if you hate West Virginia, could care less about West Virginia, do it for GBD, do it for me, do it for Joey. Even if you don't want this West Virginia channel to succeed, even if you don't care less about that, by extension, it helps GBD, it helps me, it helps all of us and everything that we're doing to build out our platforms top to bottom. So please get on over there, and I'm dropping the link right now in the comments section.
Sorry, I was talking to some kids there for a second. Yeah, and we just had like an 80 sub week, I think is what Joey said. So we've had a massive push. We're only 160 away at last glance. I think you said 840. So every little click of that subscribe button gets us to that goal. And the sooner we get there, the sooner YouTube really looks favorably on us.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if anybody else just got this. You might have. So Tony Alsmore just messaged me and said that would I please help him? There's somebody on Twitter, but with a fake account, trying to put out stuff about Tony. Tony, and it's not good either because he's saying things like whoever it is saying that Tony that he hates the F and Big-12. He's acting like he's Tony, saying he hates the F and Big-12. The Pac-12, the Pac-12 are elite.
Big time troll.
So yeah, so somebody's acting like Tony. So if anybody sees a tweet from Tony or something, kind of ignore it there, and because Tony isn't going to talk bad about the Big-12.
No. Defending the Pac-12, yes, but not talking, down on the Big 12. I like those 4 games: Duquesne, Pitt, Texas Tech, and at TCU. I think West Virginia is very capable if we have a halfway decent defense to win all 4 of those games. I don't like the road trip to Penn State. I think TCU is going to take a massive, massive step backwards. In fact, I think TCU can miss a bowl next year. I really do, because if you look at TCU last year, as great of a season as they had, their defense was not good. I think it was in the 90s total defense. I think 80s or 90s. Not a good defense. And you look at their wins; all of them were close wins. A lot of them were come from behind wins, and they relied solely on their offense, and they lost pretty much all their production on the offense. I mean, NFL talent on the offense. So I expect, and I don't expect TCU to stay down, but I think for 2023, even a road trip to TCU is very, very winnable. That first half of our schedule is much, much more manageable than the first half of last year's schedule. So we can't even use schedule as an excuse if we get off to a rough start. That is totally, totally doable.
No, getting 3 home games in a row there, it can't do anything but help. And when you're in the Big 12 and you're West Virginia, that's for sure. 3 home games in a row, and all 3 of them, like you said, should be winnable.
3 of our first 5 games were road. Now it's only 2 of our first 5 are on the road.
Now, I don't like the off week coming up after the TCU game. I'd like to play one more game before I had that off week, but it is what it is.
It's between 2 road trips, because I complained about the 2 road trips back to back at first, but then I saw the bye week in between. So I actually think that bye week is well placed.
Yeah, it is for that reason. It is well placed for that reason. But
I don't like how early in the season it is, but I think it's placed good as far as between road slates.
Houston,
and
Oklahoma
if we go
State,
on the road and beat TCU and then get the bye week, I think we go on the road and beat Houston easy. I think either way we beat Houston, but I think it's our confidence. And then Oklahoma State at home, and then all these games become super, super winnable if we can take care of those 4 games. Do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to win the Penn State game if we can.
Right.
Maybe keep it to within at the end of the game, may win by maybe 7 or 8. I think that's going to show that we're a pretty decent team.
I would
because
say
Penn
2
State's
touchdowns or
Penn
less.
State's so good this year, it's not even funny. So
Yeah.
if we can keep it within 7 to 10 points or something in a loss, I would be happy with that.
Yeah. I say if we lose by 2 touchdowns or less, then I'm good. I'm good.
Then BYU coming to Morgantown, that's going to be great. You know,
I'm going to try to go to that game.
yeah. I got to go. I went to the game. When did we play them? 2006 or 7 in Morgantown. I don't remember. One of them years.
Before we were in the Big 12?
Yeah, before we were in the Big 12, I went to that game. We beat them. Yeah.
We also get Cincinnati at home as well.
I'm not seeing any issues with Tony's account. I haven't seen any tweets from him. I just went to his account just to see if there's
it's just somebody that's copied his name.
The troll
I think.
account.
Oh,
the troll
whoa.
It's a troll account. Yeah, they haven't broke into his account. They created another at TJ Altimore account.
Okay.
Because they got mad because they were defending the Pac-12 and saying that the Big 12 wasn't going to get any of their teams, and stating the truth that the Pac-12 has better academics than the Big 12. Those are facts. Like, if you take that the wrong way, sorry, but it's facts. The Pac-12, the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC, they are all better academic conferences than the Big 12. That's facts.
And the Mountain West as well. And the Mountain West.
Not sure about that.
Joey, you know what Winsipedia, I don't know if you guys look at this site at all. It will line up any rivalry or any matchup between two teams and let you know what the score was each week or each time that they met. Saying that Penn State and West Virginia haven't played since '92. That was the last year that Penn State was an independent before they joined the Big Ten.
That was right before our undefeated 93 season. Yes.
See, Penn State tried to join the Big East, and they were not accepted, so they went and joined Big Ten.
Stupid decision by the Big East.
But a dumb decision, huh?
I don't understand. But I do remember watching West Virginia beat Penn State in '88 in our undefeated season in '88 too. I remember that.
51-30.
Yep.
Yeah, and the game was over at halftime. It was. It seems to me like it was 41-7 at halftime.
Yeah, it was bad.
You don't know.
Major Harris had a field day on him.
You guys don't want to know what the series record is.
Oh no! Penn State's annihilated us.
It's not close. It's not close.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you got to remember those were the glory years of Penn State too when we was playing them all through the '80s and '90s and
our bad
late
years.
'70s. Yeah, well, we had some good years too, but still, yet it didn't matter how good we were; they were always better because they were always number one or two in the nation. Yeah, they were always a top 5 team in the nation. We might have been top 15.
Yeah,
but you just can't. You just couldn't beat Joe Paterno back then.
What are our last 2 games after Oklahoma? I forgot. I know we have a home game against Cincinnati. I think Baylor, right? Cincinnati. Yeah, at Baylor. I knew it. Yep. See, I do think that we could lose on the road to Oklahoma because it's just tough there, and maybe on the road to Baylor. But I'm telling you, the rest of this schedule looks very doable. It just depends on how good of a start we can get off to. I don't expect us to win at Penn State, but Duquesne, of course, that's a blowout win. Pitt, that will determine our season, especially if we lose. If we lose to Pitt, then we're not getting to a bowl, and we wouldn't deserve to. But we beat Pitt. Texas Tech, who's supposed to be one of the better teams in the Big 12, but it's in Morgantown. That's totally winnable. Then at TCU. TCU's taken a tremendous step backwards. I think we can win that game. Then we get a bye week between that and then at Houston. That's very winnable. And then you look at the rest of this. I mean, 2 tough road trips, yes. But even the other 3 are 3 of the new teams coming in. At UCF, BYU, and Cincinnati. I mean.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's got a new coach. So, but that's a tough 3-game stretch there. Oklahoma, Cincinnati, and Baylor. That's a tough 3-game stretch, especially 2 of them on the road in the
I
Big
would
12.
say two out of 3, but Cincinnati's going to be down
Yeah.
and it's in Morgantown. I actually expect West Virginia to be all over.
Oh yeah, I do too. But still, Oklahoma and Baylor on the road is never easy.
How do
No.
you guys feel about having to play all 4 of the new teams, and that means you miss
Yep.
4 of the traditional Big 12 teams?
I like it as far as strength of schedule, but I don't like it. When I say strength of schedule, I mean more winnable, not tougher. More winnable, because their out of conference makes up for that. So I like that, but I don't like that they took off the home game against Texas, which would have been the tiebreaker. Even though I know Texas was going to be really, really good, that's a big draw right there. Who else do we miss? Iowa State. That would have been in Morgantown, so probably a winnable game. Let's see, Kansas State. That would have been in Morgantown too, right?
Let's see, where did we play them last year?
I think. No,
Yeah,
maybe that
maybe
was
right
in
up.
Morgantown. I think that would have been on the road.
But
So I'm kind of glad about that. Kansas, that would have been a road game. No, thank you to losing to Kansas 2 years in a row, and there's
Yeah.
a chance that we could have lost to Kansas 2 years in a row. So I'm happy about that. So overall, I would say I would give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I kind of like the schedule. I do. I like the schedule a lot. And playing the 4 newcomers, that's really good because the having UCF and Cincinnati on our side of the country for a change, that kind of helps a lot. But then playing Houston, I just really wish that Houston game was in Morgantown.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree.
That's just one thing I wish.
I would have swapped Houston and Cincinnati. Go on the road to Cincinnati. I think that would have been a bigger draw had we gone to Cincinnati, because I think their crowd would have been jacked for West Virginia to come to Cincinnati. Our crowd's not going to be that jacked for Cincinnati. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But if it would have been a home game against Houston,
Yeah.
it would have been comparable to
yeah.
Pitt. I'm telling you right now, the atmosphere would
It
be
would've.
comparable to Pitt and Virginia Tech.
And that's the issue that I have with this entire schedule. And GBD and I talked about it when it was released, that like I don't have any issues with the schedule, that it's too hard for a particular team or it's too soft for somebody. I think they did a fair job, but they didn't take, they took travel into consideration. They took equity into the situation about being fair, but they didn't take the branding, the marketing of the conference into consideration to try to set up the best matchups at the best times. It's
They
just
were
like
too worried about being fair.
Yeah.
And I think you're onto something, Mark. Yep, I would agree with that. I think they focused on, well, we don't want to make their schedule too hard and their schedule too easy, so let's try to find the common ground. And in the meantime, they're overlooking some big-time money-making matchups that, if you're the Big 12, you have to take advantage. You are not the SEC where you have a bunch of big brands, so it doesn't really matter. You can match up anybody with anybody, and you're basically going to have a big draw. In the Big 12, we don't have those big brands like that. So, yeah, that they really dropped the ball as far as branding the Big 12 in this new year where the 4 new teams come in.
And again, to go back to the example of the Houston, West Virginia missed opportunity, wouldn't you just love to be in the room when these schedules are being built and then they have to bring it all together? They're probably doing it like in pods and isolate. Then they bring it together, and somebody had to have said, well, we got to have Houston go to West Virginia. That would be phenomenal.
You would think.
Or I can't imagine that everybody just missed it. Like,
no, there's no way. Probably their chairman down there, what's his name, Fajita? He probably threw some money there to say, hey, bring them beer.
That's what's going to be my next point. It would everybody in the world would have had to be for that game except for Houston.
Yeah. Some money, grease, and palms there somewhere to keep them going to Morgantown.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm gonna be jacked whenever we get them in 24. But I mean, like they say, what if they have a terrible year and Dana gets fired?
Well, that's just it. Let's just say West Virginia's having a mediocre year at that point when they play. A mediocre year. They're not setting the world on fire, but not enough to fire Neil Brown yet. and let's say Dana's doing the same thing because they're both on the hot seat, right?
Yep.
Now that game's going to determine a coach, and you know this. That game's going to determine a coach. If Dana loses to his old team, he's going to be gone. If Neil Brown loses to Dana down there, oh, you're not. He might as well not even get on the plane back to West Virginia.
Yeah, for the sake of his health and safety.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah.
Rivalry
they
week.
didn't think past that. Yeah.
Yeah, rivalry week is a big deal for all the other conferences, and it used to be a big deal for this conference. Go look at all the other conference schedules. And so, what are the remaining rivalries? Now that there's no Texas, there's no Oklahoma. Obviously, they're still here for this season, but you're trying to set yourself up for the future. So I wouldn't even give any regard to Oklahoma State, or accommodating Texas in any way. I'd be like, they're afterthoughts. We are building this for our what's it going to be? 12 members going forward? Yeah, 12 members going forward. That's what I'm building the schedule. And I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm not going to unjustly give them the worst schedules, but yeah, they're an afterthought. I'm looking at them last. And I want to accommodate what I believe are the rivalries, whatever rivalries are left, which I believe are all the Texas schools basically playing each other. All those are just basically rivalries. Some better than most, or than the others. TCU and Baylor, I guess, might be the best rivalry. And then again, trying to create something out of these new teams. And it's kind of difficult from a geographic standpoint, but the one obvious one is what you guys have already hit on: Cincinnati and West Virginia. Playing the last week of the season.
Yeah. Geographically, yes, but I don't think there's anything there. I really don't. I honestly think that people think that because they look on the map and they see Cincinnati and West Virginia are in close proximity. But if you're a Cincinnati fan or a West Virginia fan, it's definitely not a rivalry now. Could it develop into a rivalry? Maybe, but there is no dislike. I'm not excited to play Cincinnati at all. There's nothing going in. I would say Cincinnati UCF would be the rivalry if you go with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So the rivalries that I would name off that they need to make sure it gets played every year, number one would be Cincinnati and UCF. I hope they have Cincinnati and West Virginia play every year just because of geography, but that's not a rivalry. So if we're going by rivalries, I'm going Cincinnati UCF. I'm going Baylor TCU. I'm going Kansas State, and I'm going Iowa State and Texas Tech. Everybody else.
If you look at the past games between Cincinnati and West Virginia, they played 21 times. Cincinnati's only won 3 of those.
Yeah, it's
so
not
it just never became a rivalry. Now Cincinnati has since gotten a lot better, but now that they've lost their coach, how much of a step back are they going to take again?
And they're playing in the Power 5 conference,
right?
So the competition is.
And then you look at the game at the end of the year. That means they've gone through that Power 5 conference. They're beat up.
Yep.
And they don't quite have the facilities yet that the other Power 5 programs within the conference have, the recovery centers and things like that. Sure, they have some, but nothing like the West Virginias and Oklahoma States and Kansas States and stuff. They don't have the facilities.
I'm glad this got brought up because I think that's being overblown. I'm not taking a shot at you, Mark. I'm just saying, as fans that are not West Virginia or Cincinnati fans, from the outside looking in, you'd be like, yeah, Cincinnati, West Virginia, of course, that can be a rivalry game because they're close together. But if you're an actual Cincinnati fan or an actual West Virginia fan, it's really not even close to being a rivalry right now.
Those go back to the old Big East days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati had some good years in the Big East. They had some good years. As a matter of fact, they beat who was it? Georgia, I think, in the Sugar Bowl one year.
Yep.
2009 or 8 or something. So they've had some good years.
No, Cincinnati did not beat Georgia.
No, they played Georgia.
That was UConn. That was UConn that did that.
UConn.
No.
UConn won a BCS, but it wasn't against Georgia.
No.
Okay.
They got killed by Oklahoma. UConn did.
Okay.
Cincinnati got blasted by Tim Tebow in Florida their last year.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly's last year at Cincinnati. They almost beat Georgia in 2020 in the Peach
Right.
Bowl.
Yeah.
But you take those years, those glory years for those teams in the Big East, right? UConn, their glory year, uh, they were just fantastic. They thought they were anyway. They had to come to Morgantown, the final game of the year, and take on West Virginia. And UConn have been blowing people out, and West Virginia just beat them like a drum, 61-3 or something like that. I mean, it was crazy numbers. And so you look at those teams, you say they're just not a rivalry there because they just wasn't quite ready for big time football. And I don't know, Cincinnati has since done very well, but once again playing group of five teams, a group of five schedule. So let's see how they can do it at Power Five.
It's not just that. It's not just back then they weren't ready for big time football. It's just everything that you think whenever you have a rival. I don't have any of those thoughts when it comes to Cincinnati.
No, I don't either. None at all.
No offense to Cincinnati fans, but I could care less if West Virginia plays Cincinnati.
And I think it has a lot to do with the fan base in Cincinnati too. It's a pro town.
Yeah, they're
and
not
everybody's Ohio State fan. Everybody's Ohio
State
State
difficult
fans.
to hate.
They're Ohio State fans. They're just not Cincinnati Bearcat fans. I mean,
right.
Sure, they have their fan base.
It's like a part-time job for them. Their full-time job is either a Bengals fan, a Reds fan, or the Ohio State Buckeye fans, and then okay, our part-time gig is going to be Cincinnati.
Right. That's what makes a difference. If you're a Pitt fan or a Virginia Tech fan or a West Virginia fan, you're a full-time fan of that team, and I mean, you follow that team, blood, sweat, and tears.
Pitt
Cincinnati, their fans just don't do that.
Pitt fans have kind of fallen off, but not in the sense of hating us. So that's what.
No.
For other games, they might not get up for, but for West Virginia, they will get up every day of the week for. So I'm glad you brought that up, Mark, because I think it is a misconception. And I'm not saying that I don't hope that they schedule West Virginia Cincinnati. I hope they do. That helps us in travel. But that's the only reason why I want them to schedule West Virginia and Cincinnati every year. That's it.
Now, Exploring with Ben, Sam put this up on the screen to shop Amazon using that link. Hey, that's a good idea, guys. I do it all the time. My wife buys her Hint water. You can't find Hint water in a grocery store around here. So she orders Hint water every month off of Amazon. We always use Mark Rogers' link. So, you don't have to buy what comes up on the screen. You can buy whatever you like. So
exactly. Yeah. There you go.
West Virginia leads the UConn series 7-1. UConn beat West Virginia the year that they went to the Fiesta Bowl and played Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What? I thought that was USF and Pitt. South Florida and Pitt.
South Florida and Pitt what?
You're thinking
the two teams that beat us in 2007 when we beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, no, 2010 is the year that UConn went to the Fiesta Bowl.
My bad. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
The wins for Cincinnati though were very, very few in the Big East, and like I say, if they could have kept a hold of their coach, but I think they would have been a force in the Big 12. But losing their coach, I just think they're going to take a step back.
Well, I'm going to be fascinated to see right out of the gate which one is the best out of the four new programs because they're close. Considering Cincinnati's been the best, but their coach is gone. Luke Fickell's the guy that made that happen there. But I'm also going to be intrigued to see who makes it sustainable. What's it going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now between those four? Because I really looked at it over the last 10 or 15 years of how those four have played against the Power Five, and it's really close. They're all about 500. Mm-hmm. Now, the tough part, as you guys have kind of touched upon, is there's a difference playing two Power Fives or one Power Five a season and getting up for that game. And again, you look up BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, all four of them, they're about 500 against. So which would lead you to believe they go 500 in the Big 12 and they win most of their non-conference games. They're going 7-5. They look pretty respectable. But you play West Virginia, then you play Texas Tech, then you play TCU, then you play them consecutively, it's a completely different deal.
It is.
I
It sure
take
is.
UCF, and I know I said coach, and the reason I'm going with coach, Gus Malzahn, not only does he have experience in the Power Five, but he has experience in the SEC, and on top of that, never had a losing season at Auburn. I think UCF got lucky that they were able to grab Gus Malzahn, and I think UCF will be a force. UCF has, I think, the largest on-campus student body in the entire nation. They're in the smack dab middle of a hotbed of recruiting, and they're in Orlando. Who else is in Orlando? Oh yeah, Disney, who's connected to ESPN. So I'm telling you, UCF is a sleeping giant in my opinion. I think they're all they needed was to be in a Power Five conference.
Absolutely.
Now that they have that, I think the sky's the limit for them.
I posted a video probably 5 years suggesting the ACC go after UCF.
Shoulda. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely shoulda.
Just- Florida State and Miami would probably not allow that.
Well,
They need to get
true.
over it. Yep.
Yep.
Guys, I gotta head out of here. I got some other stuff I gotta do, but
Appreciate it.
I'm definitely looking forward to next week because I think we need to talk more about the quarterback thing that I heard today. As far as the rumor that I'm hearing is that the starting quarterback for West Virginia against Penn State has already been decided based on promises that were made. So I don't know if it's true. Might be just made up stuff. I don't know, but I think it's something worth at least talking about and thinking about.
All right, folks, appreciate you all being here. And again, head on over to GBD's channel, of course. Check out his work. Keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you back next week.
Hit the subscribe button.
Yes. And catch the link in the chat to subscribe to the West Virginia channel. And when you subscribe here, obviously for the West Virginia show here, we sometimes have to move the show, but we're pretty good about Friday nights at 8. But if we've got to move it, keep those notifications on. GBD, appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. Joey, you as well.
Love it,
Not
man.
a problem at all. Enjoyed it.
Why
all right,
do it,
guys.
man. I love it.
See you next week.
See you next week.